Hey buddy, I hope you're doing well. So, abstract class. But first question is why even Microsoft has created abstract class when there was already so many classes? They had sealed class, virtual class, static class and regular class for sure. So, what is the need of abstract class? Well, there was something called inheritance. So I'm not going to deep dive into inheritance. We can cover that in a different video, but let's focus on abstract class. There is a concept called inheritance. To support just inheritance, what Microsoft wanted, that they wanted to restrict their class, that this class only needs to be used for inheritance. So what they did, they have introduced abstract class. They have introduced that one word and they said to developers, hey, go and use this keyword abstract with your classes, and now this class is going to be only used for inheritance. When you say abstract with your class name, you are making your class by default base class. Now it is only going to be used for inheritance. You can't go and create objects. They say don't you dare to create object of abstract class. Even if you try, you will fail. Your compiler will start throwing exception. So they have specifically created this class just for inheritance. Now, how to use that? When to use that? So we are going to talk about all those things in detail. So let's go ahead and let me show you how we can implement in your code base. Okay, so here we are in the Visual Studio, and what we're going to do today, we're going to use a very simple example to understand this concept. First, we will understand the concept, all the key points, and then we will dig into why we need it, when we need it, right? The use case. Okay, so what we will do, let's go ahead and add a new class. Okay, so let's say new class, and these are the default template that Microsoft has provided. So something called interface is there, something called class is already there, and different sort of files are already there. So if you remember, you can create interface directly, right? If you choose this template and add, it will create a keyword with interface. But they have not created something called abstract here. So if you try to search, as of now, today, Microsoft has not created, but it is very possible that Microsoft introduced that as a template also. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new class. Okay, so what I will say, this is my parent class, because that class was basically built for inheritance. So let's take example of parent, right? So what I will do, this is my parent class. Okay, now add it. Okay, see, we have just created a class. Now it's all up to you what type of class you need. Microsoft has just given you normal class. Now I have to create abstract class. Now what I will do, I will say, hey, abstract, here you go. And this class is now being created as an abstract class. So let's go ahead and create one method. Okay, so what I will say, this public, and I will say, hey, this is my void, and this says just test method. Okay, so let's do that, and you see it is supporting non-abstract method. Now let's try to create abstract method. Let's just copy this and add a new method. Okay, so for sure it will make error, and what I will do, I will say, hey, void, and this abstract here as well to make this method abstract, and I will say first method, right? So this is my first method, first abstract method. Okay, now you see this is your abstract method and this is your non-abstract method. So first thing, that abstract class support both type of abstract and non-abstract methods. Now try to play with this thing. If you try to add body of abstract method, it will start shouting. You see, it says that this method cannot declare a body because it is marked as abstract. So if there is something abstract, you can't define the body. You just have to say that's it. You can only declare the method. You can't define the body. On the vice versa, if you try to do the opposite here, don't declare the body, just declare the name, you will see it is complaining, right? Because this is how the normal method works, right? You should have the body of those methods. So this is the first thing. Now if you try to make this private, it will again start complaining. Let's make it private. You see, it start complaining. It says virtual or abstract member cannot be private. Let's not talk about virtual, let's focus on abstract. So basically, if there is something abstract method, you have to make it public, right? Or maybe internal, something that can be inherited. You know that private things can't be inherited, and the purpose of abstract is that inherit. So that is the only reason, because this method don't have body, and if something don't have body and it is private, why even we need to create here, right? That is the only reason it is complaining that don't make it private. Okay, so if you try to make it internal, I think it still will happy. So let's make it internal. You see, it is happy, right? Don't make it private. Other than that, internal, public, protected, I am happy with that. Okay, so that is the other thing. Okay, so let's make it public for don't face any issue while inheritance. Okay, so this is done now. But these methods which are not abstract, you can make those methods private, right? There is no constraint of access modifier on the methods which are not abstract. So if I try to create it private, it allows me. And you know why? For sure, it is not abstract. But why? If it is not abstract, then why it is allowing? Because it has body. So something don't have body, it says don't make it private. Something who have body, make that private, right? So that is the main reason behind restricting the access modifier on abstract and non-abstract method. Okay, so now why we need this, right? This parent class. Because let's go ahead, let's try to create one child class now. What I will do, I will go ahead and I will add a new item here, and for sure class I will say that this is child, let's say child 1. So I will say, hey child 1, you are child 1, and yep, sure. Okay, now I said I did a misspell. I need to remove the CS, I think, from the file name as well. It won't cause any issue, but still let's remove that. So child 1. Okay, great. Okay, so now let's try to create object of abstract class, because if you remember initially starting of the video I said you can't create object of the abstract class, and that is the main difference between regular class and abstract class. Otherwise even this class you can inherit. Okay, so let's focus on that now. So this is my parent class. What I will do, I will create object. Okay, so let's say this is my object name, and I will say, hey new and parent. Let's see what it says. It says cannot create an instance. Here you go. So cannot create an instance of the abstract type or interface. You can't create object of abstract class. So that is clear now. You can't create object. So you have to inherit that. So now let's try to inherit that. Okay, so let me remove this code. I will go here, copy this and use inheritance. Oh, see, it is still not happy. Why? Because if you look here, one method is non-abstract, second method is abstract. And when something is abstract, remember, when something is abstract, you have to override that. So there is a birth of second keyword, override. So something which is abstract, now you need to override in the child class. Okay, because this method don't have any body. This is just abstract. It is saying, hey, I'm abstract, override me into the child class. Okay, so let's go here, and if you here you will see this error message and this this bulb icon that giving suggestion, say implement abstract class. Here you go. You see it has created that method with body. Now you need to create your logic here. So you can say add my logic, whatever logic you need you can create here, right? But if you notice, it has not created this method over here, right? So that is the reason this abstract don't have body, but other method has body. So this private still let's see, because we are using the concept of inheritance here, right? We are inheriting parent class. Can I still use this test because it is private? Can I do that? Let's try. If I try to call here, let me call what here, let's try to add logic and try to call test here, just testing purpose. So let's see if it says, yep, it is not able to even identify that there is something called test, right? But what if the name spells are wrong, so let's fix the name, then we will able to see if it's the right error or not. Okay, yep, you see, yeah, it is able to identify now, but it says inaccessible due to the protection level. Okay, so that means you have to make it public, right? Here you go, you see, now you are able to access that method. So this is what happened in inheritance, right? So this abstract class is completely used for inheritance. Okay, now let's remove this, we don't need. Let's focus on other thing now. Other thing that constructor. That abstract class also have constructor. Now question is, if something have constructor but it is not allowed to create object, then what is the use of constructor? If even you can't, because that is what the purpose of constructor, right? To create object, to provide object, then why it is needed here, right? So let me show you. So what happened, let's create a constructor of this abstract class first, and I will say, hey, you are the constructor now. Now you see it is accepting. First of all, it is allowing to create constructor, right? Now why you need constructor? Let's say there are two methods. There is a method called test and test1, right? And both of these methods need one common property, any property. Let's say it is accepting, let's declare one private let's say one private string and say connection connection string, let's say connection string, right? And put some value for now, let's say string.empty, right? So we can declare it. Here you go. Now this is private, so let's make it underscore. That is something called good practice. Okay, so I need connection, and here you have to say string, and let's just rename it. So this is my connection string. Now this connection string is equal to this connection string which is in constructor. So these two methods need same property with same value. Then why to make a call everywhere, right? So what we can do, we can use constructor, and these connection string can pass everywhere, here and here, right? So that is the purpose. Now you see, this is parameter constructor because we are passing parameter, right? So if you are not able to create object, right? Because if you say like this, this is parent, and if I say, hey, go here and say this is parent class, this is parent object name and new, and then parent, then you're allowed to pass that parameter, right? Whatever the parameter here, but it is not allowed here, right? So how you can do that when you are working with abstract class? How you can use parameter constructor? So first thing, we understood that why we need constructor here, right? That's something for common properties that is needed inside this abstract class. Now how you can use this parameter constructor, right? So let me show you how you can use that. So there is something, the introduction of base keyword. So what you can do, let's say this constructor wanted to talk to parent. Now what will happen, create a constructor of this child one, and let's say this, what will happen, there is something called let's say this constructor is also accepting some string. Okay, so same thing what base class need. What base class needs, it needs connection string. Let's say this also need connection string. Okay, now this word you need to remember how to call parameter constructor for abstract class, right? So there is a way you can say colon and you need to say base, and then you have to pass this thing here. Here you go, you see, and I believe that's it, but it says error because says it's protection level. So oh yeah, because by default it is private, so for sure I have to make it public constructor, otherwise there is no use. Okay, so it is happy now, right? So that means whatever it is coming here, how it works, right? Whatever it is coming here to this constructor, it will go to this first. not here. Let me show you. So what I will do, I will I will call this method here, this first method here in the constructor, right? I will put my breakpoint here, and then I will put my breakpoint here, right? This constructor, in the base constructor, in the child constructor, and this method as well, right? So let's try to call child1 now. And to call child1, because this is regular class, let's make it public, otherwise we will again see that inaccessible issue. We have to go here, let's go to our program class. Yes, we will use program class, and we will create object. Not this one. So what is the class name? So my class name is this. So looks like it is not happy. And why? Because parent is less inaccessible than child1. Oh, okay. And why it is saying that way? Oh, okay, because this is not public. Everything is public, man. Everything is needed public for abstract class, right? Okay, so now we are good. Now let's go to program class back, and this is my child1. Let's create object of child1, and let's say equal to new child1 colon. Okay, so I think this is happy. No, this is not yet happy, because you need to pass something, because it is accepting one parameter as a connection string, right? So let's pass test connection string. It is again inaccessible. Dude, come on, public. Okay, so fine. Now let's hit this and let's see how it works, the behavior of it. I'm not calling any method, I'm just constructing the object, and that's it, because I'm going to show you the logic, how it works. So execute it. Let's see what happened. Let's see all the magic. Okay, here you go. You see our breakpoint on child, but where it went first, it went on base class. Why? Because of this keyword that you see, this base. What this base say? Hey dude, whatever you are doing, I don't care. I need my base class to call first, and this base identify that this is the base class, right? This is how you can call parameter constructor, and this is how you can pass value to abstract constructor, abstract parameter constructor, right? So this is important thing. Okay, now if you will hit, you will see after base class, after performing that constructor logic, it came here to this, right? And you see now we have executed that method. I hope you find it interesting. Okay, so now let's stop it. Let's focus on other key points. So let's go back to our parent class. Okay, so now can parent class support inheritance? Because we know that this class can give inheritance to other classes, but can this class also support inheritance? So what we will do, let's create one class here, because our focus is on understanding the concept. Instead of creating new file this time, I will focus on this file in the same file, and I will make it grandparent, right? So this is my grandparent abstract class. And now let's see, let's say control KD to format the code. Let's see if it's for the inheritance of our grandparent or not. Oh, it is happy, right? Now what we will do, let's create one more abstract class. So let's create grandparent1, and now let's try to inherit this as well in the abstract class. Okay, oh, it is not happy, and it says that parent cannot have multiple base classes, right? So that means only one base class is allowed, right? So that means, dude, abstract class is not accepting. But can it accept normal classes as a multiple inheritance? Let's try to do that as well. Remove the abstract class, this keyword, and now let's try to make it inheritance. Oh, it is still not happy. So no matter abstract class or normal class, it is not going to support, right? Okay, so let's remove. So now what I should do, right? What happened in this case? If you need multiple inheritance, you can use interfaces, right? So you can say comma interface. If I can show you, let's try to make it interface now. So I will say interface, and now if I try to do, it should be happy. You see, grandparent1, right? Don't go in my naming convention, because my focus is to understand the concept. For sure it should start with I, because it is interface, but you see it is happy, right? So to support the multiple inheritance, you need the help of interface. You can't achieve that with just a class, right? I hope you find this interesting as well. Okay, now let's close this. Okay, so close this, remove this. Now it also don't support static class. For sure, static class you can't inherit, right? So even if you try to make static class here, try to inherit, let me undo the other code that we had. Let's remove this, and now if I try to make this class as a static class, and if you try to inherit, you see we were already inheriting, so it started complaining that parent cannot derive from static class, right? So you can't use static class. Let's remove this code. Now let me tell you one more interesting thing. So if any class which is abstract, you can't make it sealed. You know why? Because sealed class don't allow inheritance. Then why you will make sealed class? Purpose of abstract class is to provide inheritance. Let's try that as well. So if I say, hey, this is my sealed abstract class, it will start complaining. You see, parent and abstract type cannot be sealed or static, right? So you can't make it static, you can't make it sealed. It should be class and abstract class. So remember that. Now these are the important things about abstract class. The big question is when to use, right? So there are a couple of things that we can do. For example, if there are 4 different child classes, every class needs some common implementation. That this is a class, child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4. All those 4 classes need database connection. Now I don't want to write the same code in every class to read the database connection. What I can do in the abstract class, I can create one public method, right? Like this, I will say, hey, get connection string, right? And here I will write a code to get connection string. Now wherever this class will be inherited, all of them would have this logic, right? They will just say call this method and they will have that thing, right? So this is one use case. Now they also have abstract method, right? Then why they have created something abstract method? So what happens sometime, why specifically abstract? Because in abstract you have that capability that you can keep your abstract method and non-abstract method when you need some common implementation, same logic. For example, reading connection string, same logic everywhere. You would have that public method, non-abstract method, right? You can use that. Now abstract method, let's say you wanted to give your child classes to add their own capability, but for the same purpose. So all of the child classes wanted to add data to the database. Now every class wanted to add, if there is a class called product, they will add product data. If there is a class called color, they will add color data. Price class will add price data, right? So what will happen? This abstract class, when they will inherit, here would be the method called add, right? Now add don't have any logic. What it says that add your own body. Every class is going to write their own logic to add the data. So that is the one purpose you can use. Now the other purpose that abstract class support, let me remove everything, it support abstract property. So what will happen here? You can say public and let's say string and let's say first name. Here you go. Here you go, right? So my bad. So let's say get set. So you see it also support property, right? So now delete this. So what happens sometime, like there is a class, there's a different class and every class have common properties like created by ID, updated by ID, created date, modified date. These are the very common properties. So what you can do, all those properties you can create here. Let's say created by ID, right? Let's say modified by ID. So all these properties are very common, right? And when you let's fix this. So what will happen when you declare this inside abstract class, you can inherit these properties everywhere. You don't need to write the same code again and again. Every time you don't need to declare the same property, right? Now one more interesting thing that I need to tell you about abstract class, that they support abstract property, right? If I try to create abstract property, they are allowing that, but they are not allowing to create any abstract variables. So if I try to create one variable and try to say, hey, this is my public, I will say this is abstract, let's say string, let's say this is a test variable, and that's it. You will see it start complaining. It says the modifier abstract is not valid on the fields. So no abstract on the fields, but abstract on the properties are allowed, right? So these are the key points that we need to remember when we are working with abstract class. Now there is a big debate between interface and abstract, right? So I'm going to cover that as well in the coming videos, so stay tuned.